Welcome. We're back.
Welcome. We are back. This is the Fatal Vision podcast. We are your hosts, James McGinnis
Billy Glidden.
and Billy Lidden. It's been a bit of a hiatus, Billy. I'm not
Yeah, a
sure
lot.
how, I honestly have no idea how long it's been. It's been probably 4 weeks or
Yeah, a
three.
lot has happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you
Um,
canceled on me a couple weeks ago, maybe?
and then we didn't talk about it. Yeah, we canceled on you the week of the election, and then we didn't talk about it at all last week. Neither of us brought it up.
Couldn't,
Um,
couldn't.
So I think it was just clear, when Monday came around, I think we both just knew we were gonna return. And that
Yeah.
the work had to continue. The work has barely begun. Um, so yeah, and then I think then we missed a week. You were canvassing in Wisconsin. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was probably, yeah, that counts for, I think a 3 week gap, 3 week gap.
Yep. I was out knocking on doors in Madison.
Yeah. So,
Shout out to the
uh,
Moran family for hosting me.
yeah.
Molly for giving me a dope air mattress in her boudoir. I don't know what a boudoir is, but it's what the room my air mattress was in is
Oh,
called.
no, I love air mattress. When I lived in NYC, that's all I had for a long time was air mattress. And then it would deflate on me, and then I would just sleep on the deflated air mattress as like a rubber bump or but anyway, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, yeah. Molly's air mattress was pretty good. Yeah.
Good, man.
Yeah.
That sounds tight. Oh, by the way, and obviously to everyone who's listening, this is going to sound dramatically different because I have a microphone, external microphone. So Billy and I are officially like all the images of the podcasters.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Maybe we'll start uploading video for like the premium content.
yeah, yeah, premium subscriber only visual, bonus content. Um,
Speaking of which, speaking of visuals, man, I couldn't help but notice you had some furry creatures in the
yeah,
background at
yeah,
the
we
crib
went
there.
ahead and yeah, we two new members of the family, cats, kittens really, uh,
Mm.
Holly and Willow, and they're great. They arrived on Saturday. So,
It's simple
uh,
things, man.
yeah, life goes on. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, life goes on.
Yep.
And been thinking about Jeffrey MacDonald a lot, obviously. I'm sure you have too. Um,
Mm.
it's right around. It's pretty late for it's 11:08 in the East, and Jeffrey MacDonald is in Cumberland, Maryland, in a maximum security. And
Yep.
and back there in October he turned 81. So happy birthday. That's what Jim Blackburn would say. How many birthdays has he had now that he got to have, and
Hmm.
his wife and daughters didn't since 1970.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna spend time with Jeff tonight.
Yeah,
On a
yeah,
Voice of
yeah,
Jeffrey MacDonald chapter, page 97.
yeah. So just to bring our listeners into the room, we this is the first time we've been with the material in some time, so it's really going to be all about letting the spirit in tonight. And I would love for Billy to start take us in on page 97 of the 2012 edition.
Okay, the voice of Jeffrey MacDonald. The year at Princeton was incredibly great. I was an absolute love. with Colette, and I thought having Kimberly was neat. And we had tons of people over to the house. We had just moved into a house on Bank Street, right off Nassau Street, across from the university. We had some great times. The big dinner that Colette and I learned to cook for all our friends, mainly spaghetti, but we had some others. And our house became, as I knew my house in Patchogue, where my parents were the entertainers of everyone. Colette and I had sort of taken over this role at Princeton. We were the hit of the campus, so to speak. Of course, that was the year that Bill Bradley became a big star, and the next year he went on to superstardom. But we were good friends with Cosmo
Iacavazzi.
Iacavazzi, who was the All-American football player at Princeton at the time. And I remember he used to come over to eat, and we had a blast together.
I just wanted to get right in front of that because he's going to mention Cosmo about I think 10 and more times before this chapter is done. Um, so yeah,
Iacavazzi.
Cos. Yeah, yeah. And then the audio version, the actors are great. He's like Cosmo Iacavazzi. Just, like, so pleased with himself.
I was so proud of Princeton and being a member of Tiger Inn, the eating club. It wasn't Ivy or Cottage, which were the rich boys clubs, but it was, one of the top five for sure. And it was the jock club. Cosmo Iacavazzi was a member, and Colette was proud of me being in there. I
What do we
wonder,
think about this so
I
far?
wonder if she was proud.
Yeah, I think she gave a shit. And I don't think she really wanted to be I think we learn later that she was not fond of him constantly forcing strangers into their home and having her feed them. Um, but that's another story.
No, we're seeing the classic move. He's writing the
Yeah,
story that he thinks Joe will end up writing by
but
filling in the
but
thoughts in other people's heads.
but he thinks that people in a commercial book will like really be hot and turned on by him talking about like this really incoherent world of Ivy League clubs. It's just
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea what that is. And it's just so, and I think it's also a vicious choice by Joe to leave that in there because it just makes him seem like he's such a bastard.
One of the
And
top five. One of the top
one of the
five
top five,
clubs
and it was
for sure.
the parenthesis, it was emphasis on the italics, the jock club. So, and
I
Jeffrey,
heard that back in the day it costs more to italicize a word. So
oh
uh,
yeah, Uh, that's what I heard too. And you got to get a 1983 dictionary to read this book. Look up what the words meant at the time.
underline
Yeah.
every italicized word. Circle it, underline
Yep.
it, look it up.
Write the definition in the margins.
It's a code that you must crack. We're making jokes about a club we're both part of.
Yeah, yeah. Talking, yeah. I mean, here I am bashing clubs, and I'm in a great one.
2 million members worldwide, one day at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
We had some difficult times. I'm here. I'm Jeffrey again
Yeah,
here.
we're back into the material.
We had some difficult times. I remember there was a football weekend and we had invited my parents and we had tickets for the game and everything, but my father was always an enigma. You never really could figure out what was going to happen next. He was very ambivalent about a lot of things. He was proud of me being at Princeton, but he was also upset a little bit that it was maybe too snooty a place. In other words, it was too pseudo-intellectual and it was perhaps a little bit left-leaning. And more importantly, it wasn't the working people, it was the phonies of the world that were going there.
It's a little Holden Caulfield coming out here.
Yeah, the phonies,
Yeah,
man. Get to the end of the page and then.
yeah. Whenever you, yeah, just let the spirit move you.
My father was essentially an unschooled person. He was extremely bright, a voracious reader, an intellectual at heart, but one who tried to hide his intellectual both capabilities and desires under a barrel. He would have liked the world to have believed that he was rough and tough and non-intellectual, in fact, a laborer, and he would occasionally make what sounded like racist comments, either about racism or other religious groups like Presbyterians or Methodists or whatever. He was raised by his great-grandmother in Gardner, Massachusetts. His own mother had gotten married at 15, just like her mother had done, and just like her mother had had to leave her behind to go off and find a way to earn a living. She had had to do the same thing when her husband left her. She moved to New York when my father was very young, leaving him with this great grandmother who spoke French and who was apparently a very tough woman and very dominating.
Wow. There's so much you can do here with the inherited trauma and the masculine feminine struggle. So anyway, this is about we don't hear much about his dad, and I'm always curious about him, so I'm glad we're here. He became an electrical designer. He had gone to technical school, and essentially he was a draftsman. He worked at the Brookhaven National Laboratory, and even though he never finalized his engineering degree, he never really forgave the intellectually elite community for not recognizing him as an engineer. He always resented that he was being paid less to do full engineer's work just because he was a designer and did not have a degree. Fun fact, my dad's dad was also a non-degreed draftsman for most of his career, where he started
Wow.
a travel agency that went belly up. Um, there's no question that he was the leader and ruler of our family. His presence, it's almost beyond comprehension how important he was to the family. His presence was huge wherever he was and in whatever setting he was in. He was a very magnetic person, not a shy person. A lot of charm and grace, always a gentleman and chivalrous. He treated women in a chivalrous fashion, which now, of course, would be considered chauvinistic. But his hold on the family, even to this day, is staggering. I'm, I'm just the how is it such a straight line from chivalry to chauvinism? Maybe just like ordering for them at when you're out at a restaurant, you would like just tell the woman what she's going to eat.
Well, there have been a couple of jabs at the lefties in this
Yeah, yeah.
chapter.
Princeton's pretty left leaning, and nowadays no one would respect McDonald's dad. All right, so McDonald obviously holds him in high regard here. My dad was the family, and that's the truth. So we got here just because he came to the football weekend, and it was kind of whack. It sounds like it was kind of whack. Um, he was a phenomenal person with an incredible presence. I think no matter how strong my mom got, and this is a little unfair, but it's simply a fact from my viewpoint. No matter how strong my mom is and was, my dad was still the main mug, which is interesting because we're hearing actually from the McGinnis chapters that his mom was this incredible capacity to handle nonstop tragedy and
Hmm.
crisis and her two sons without the support of a husband and keep a job. Um, he was a dominating force in all of our lives. There's no question that he was the most important force in my brothers and sisters' psyches. My brother, incidentally, was clearly favored by my father simply because he was firstborn, and I suspect also in mind. He was
In
not a,
mind, in his what? The most important force
yeah,
in his psyche.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Maybe that doesn't make any, it doesn't seem like a coherent, it seems like a sentence fragment or something. I don't know. Um, he was not a peaceful man by any means. He terrified us when he was angry, and a mere look or the thought of him being angry would completely silence us and stop any problem. Also, he constantly railed against the domination by women that he saw in the world. And his background, of course, is very consistent with that. So he just is like, just again, just like painting himself in the worst possible light. Like never to his dying day did he forgive the women of this world for attempting to rule and take over. And many was the time, especially when he'd had a little too much to drink. Man, many was the time, especially when he'd had a little too much to drink. I heard him say that a domineering woman was the most dangerous creature on God's earth.
Oh.
Uh, What an amazing man.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
he was the most incredible person. He
yeah,
was the family. He was everything.
so much better than my mom, and
He hated women.
hated women. He wished they would all die. In keeping with that, he was not a warm, loving father. He was a little distant, especially physically. My father was super masculine, and he never really touched us or hugged us or kissed us because that was unmanly. He could never express his love for us. We all knew it was there, but we never heard it spoken and never felt a physical embrace. So
Huh.
what he demanded most were two things: absolute obedience and achievement. In my family, any indication that he couldn't keep up or couldn't be superior in every field or try harder and overcome whatever adversity it was a sign of weakness.
Let's remember that this is Jeffrey recounting this.
Yeah,
So maybe it's true, maybe not. I wonder what his siblings think, but we know from the rest of the book to this point that Jeffrey clearly thinks of himself as somebody who has achieved a great deal
yeah,
and is the quintessential alpha.
yeah. The ultimate man.
Yeah, and so he's saying the way that I am, it's attributable to my alpha father.
I passed his tests. His tests he set the bar high, and I crushed it. Um, and probably it's like becoming a Green Beret. Like not for everyone, but you know, I always
I
like
decided I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a
the
doctor.
green. Yeah, it's like just gonna be the Green Beret of having a horrible parent. Um, all right, I'll read to the end of this page, the last full paragraph.
All right, man.
What I remember most clearly, I suppose, were the trips he would take on Sundays to visit my grandmother, his mother, in Malvern, where she had finally wound up living. It was a harrowing experience to go 45 miles along the old 1950s back roads between Patchogue and Malvern with an impatient, angry father driving the car, bitching constantly about the inadequacies of every other driver on the road. He was always very tense and angry on these trips, and he was extremely vituperative toward other drivers. His frequent expression was he wished he had a Sherman tank, or he wished he was driving a big cement truck and he could just squash the other cars. Just the fact that he's sharing this as a convicted murderer is just awesome.
But anyway, at Princeton, we had this big week. So we're back.
Uh, anyway, I don't know how did I get to this? My father is just going to steamroll and take human life on the highway.
Hates every woman. Well, domineering
Yeah,
women.
and basically everything, everyone.
But he was the best, most important
Yeah, but
force.
you knew he loved you. You knew he loved you.
But anyway, at Princeton, we had this big weekend all set up, and one of the highlights of these weekends was bringing your parents to the club for dinner. And I remember that my father was already sick and was having difficulty walking long distances, and the day was a trial for him because we had done so much and walked so much, and we had to walk from the club at lunchtime to go down to Palmer Stadium, which was a pretty good walk for him being short of breath, and then walk back and have dinner. And I'll never forget how incensed he got that we had black waiters in little white short jackets serving us in the club. And it's very left wing.
That's left lane leaning to have racist slavery era things.
He he became furious. And as a matter of fact, we got into an argument at the club over that, the particulars of which elude me, but I was embarrassed about his anger. The black help and the short white jackets were uncomfortable to him at best, and snobby and pseudo-intellectual and effete at worst. And we had a little sort of scene that day together, and I'm kind of sorry, of course, that it occurred. We didn't have that much time together from then on, and I remember with some sadness that this occurred. From time to time, I brought Colette to the club, the Tiger Inn, and she was funny. She was a little ambivalent. She didn't like the idea of clubs at Princeton because they seemed a little white glovish, too much like something Mildred would like. But she also kind of enjoyed the status and also the fact that the Tiger Inn was considered a really good club, one of the top five for sure, and it was the jock club. And she was proud of me being in there. So he's repeating this.
Yeah, he's like having like some sort of a word salad.
We went over and had lunch and dinner many times, especially on football weekends. And she was kind of proud of that. And there were no other relationships going on at all during this year. There was, I wasn't seeing anyone or doing anything. I was coming home. We had a good year.
What a paragraph.
Yeah,
Uh,
he really wants us to know that despite her ambivalence, she
she
was
loved
very
it.
proud. She was very proud. Like she liked the status. So what does this mean then about what we're to take from this in terms of their relationship and how they communicated? Like they were sitting around and Colette was like, I feel funny about it, but I am proud of you for the status you've achieved and that you've invited
Yeah.
me to share in.
And we do, and I go there and have lunch and dinner many times, and I'm proud of going there. So he gets that sort. He almost sort of like reveals that she has any kind of free will, and then is able to sort of get back on track within a sentence or two. No, no, it was the Jock Club, and she was so proud of that. Um, and we went there and football weekends.
And there,
She
there
was
was
really
nothing else
proud of
going
that.
on. There's no
And
other
then yeah, then
relationship
and then he
either.
says there was no other relationships. Wait, she was literally your wife that time. Like there's no other relationships. It's like what the fuck? I wasn't seeing anyone or doing anything. I was coming home, you know.
Well, okay, to be fair to Jeff,
Yes, it must be fair to Jeff.
to be fair to Jeff, this isn't a tape to Joe, who
Yeah,
obviously knows that Jeff cheated on Colette constantly.
yeah. He's like, oh, you should probably know that I wasn't cheating on her in the first 2 months we were married or whatever. Yeah, yeah. No other relationships. Just the way he talks about it as relationships and dating. And then that clip we found of him on Good Morning America where he's like, I went on a date in Texas. And I was just asked to go on a date. So I took someone on a date. It's not that what meant nothing to me. Well, I didn't have any affairs. I went on dates. Um, okay. So that was great. I do love everything that happened there. Did he just sort of anyway over his dad having a violent racist outburst at Princeton?
Yeah, so to recap the dad stuff, he is telling us about a weekend with the dad at Princeton. proceeds to tell us that the dad didn't
And
really
he's
like.
basically, and he's like on death's door too. He's like almost
Well, but I'm trying to
there.
walk through the way this
Yeah.
was told. So he tells us dad came for a weekend. He didn't like it because it's too lefty. And oh, by the way, my dad hated women and hated us, but really loved us. But he never indicated that in any way. But he really dominated my psyche and the psyche of my siblings. And he hated weakness and he hated being like an effete bitch. And then when he's done with that, he brings us back to the Princeton narrative, which anyway, now we're back at Princeton. And oh yeah, and he had a racist outburst. He hated the black servers in their white coats, and we had a fight. And anyway, that made me sad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what we got about his father.
Okay. All right. It's a,
Yeah.
um, like,
And I would add, because I think it sheds some light on the character we're dealing with, in the context of what we know about him here and his relationship with Colette. I mean, does he seem unsympathetic to his father's point of view?
no, not at all.
The chivalry chauvinism thing? Oh, no, I
No,
mean, nowadays my dad would be called a sexist, but really,
no, he makes it clear that this is someone that you should emulate. Like my father made me all the good things about me. My father gave me.
yeah.
Um, but he
Well,
did embarrass me in front of my fucking hot friends in the club, and that kind of sucked.
yeah, I guess
Uh,
if we were going to be trauma informed, it was probably hard for Jeff to have a dad like that, and he probably had to do a lot of rationalizing along those
oh
lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Um, Interesting stuff.
But it's also kind of like when historians try to understand how Stalin killed 100 million people, and they say, well, his father beat him when he was young.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
well, it doesn't mean anything.
what's part of it, and that's what's so interesting about this work is that well, especially in this, I think we're still in part one. There's so much of MacDonald just telling his own story or telling us the story he wants us to know, wants this to have be true. Um,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totally. Totally.
and so like Colette is just like totally submissive to everything, um, and just supports him and loves him and is always happy. All
And
right,
she's
here, well,
proud. Yeah, go
she's
ahead. Keep
proud
going.
of him. Yeah, yeah, we'll just deep. We got 3 pages. Um, Kimmy's birth was, of course, traumatic, no question about it. Colette, did not like pain. We had joked for a
Oh,
long
man.
time about natural childbirth, and she even made a little pretense at beginning classes for natural childbirth. But she was advised not to by her physician and advised not to by me. I knew Colette very well, and I felt that as soon as the first pain came, the plans for natural childbirth would go out the window, and indeed they did. Colette is a feminine, gentle person. She was not a sturdy frontier woman. She was very motherly, especially later on with 2 kids. She was an incredibly good mother. But at this point, she was reasonably frail. Like, for instance, she's left-handed, and so she had this funny looking shot on the basketball court, and she could dribble only intermittently well, sometimes with both hands, but very feminine and pretty. And it's distressing to see her with the hair, a little scraggly and sweating and grunting and complaining about the pain. So I'd hold her hand and talk her through it. And we were doing the breathing things. And she was very reassured that I was there. There's no question about that. I'm not just saying that. I really always have felt very strongly that she did trust me implicitly. And the fact that I was there holding her hand was very important to her. I did leave at one point for about an hour. It was something to do with canceling classes or something like that. I may have had to run over to a chemistry lab to hand in a paper or tell my lab partner that I wasn't going to be there or something like that. And I came right back. But the doctor arrived shortly thereafter, checked her, and what happened was he examined her a couple of times, and he clearly had a frown on his face after the second or third examination. Then they took x-rays and found another OB man was there also. And it turned out that the baby was too large for Colette's pelvis type. So basically, the doctor and I told her together. We came in together and said, it's not progressing well, and we think that we're probably going to have to do a cesarean section. The doctor and I then had a discussion about whether I would be in the cesarean room. I didn't particularly want to, not because I was squeamish. I just didn't see any reason to be there. And I always felt that it would sort of impede the doctor. I still believe that to this day, by the way, about other couples when they ask me. But he was not at all in favor of me being in there, so we mutually discussed it. It became clear that it was clearly better that I wasn't in there. All right, that's a good I'll read to the bottom of this page.
Hmm.
So I sat outside the operating room in a little, sort of waiting area and read a Reader's Digest and a Look magazine, then reread the Look magazine and paced a little and had a cup of coffee and I guess the usual parent routine. New to me, but not new to anyone else. Finally, he came out from the operating room. It seemed like an eternity, by the way, and said that everything was fine and that we had a girl and that the baby was happy and healthy, and Colette seemed to be doing fine, but she was exhausted from the long, sort of non-productive labor. Um, so we're going to go from here on. This is, this is the last pause before the end of the our reading part. So, classic. He just characterizes Colette as frail and just utterly helpless.
I know.
Um, And then the pivot to like yeah, then I took off. I went to school or something. I don't even know what I did. But yeah, I like went away for a while. I had to do some chores. So I left. I had to tell someone something about a lab.
Like I knew that the second Colette felt any pain whatsoever,
Yeah.
the natural birth would be out the window.
Yeah,
Forget
I
it.
told her straight up, like that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
You're too weak. You can't
You're
handle
way
it.
too weak. You hate pain. You're not like me. I could handle it if I was a woman. Um,
Okay, well,
so
Colette is not a domineering woman.
no, not in this telling. Um, and then he for purely practical and clinical reasons opted out of being present for the birth of his daughter. It's like, nah, I don't see any reason to be in there. And the
Well,
doctor didn't. Then he just like keeps spinning it out. He's like, well, and I would tell other people that too. And the doctor didn't even want me in there.
was that decision unusual for not
I'm
the
not saying it, and
1960s?
I probably not, but he just revealing that he didn't want to. I didn't want, no, I didn't see any reason to be there. I mean, he was literally in there, supposedly, except for the trip back to school. He was like holding her hand during the rest of her non-productive labor and was talking about how incredibly comforting his presence was to her, and like she knew that she was okay because he was there holding her hand, and then just like I'm not going to do that when you're going through this unplanned traumatic surgery. I'll just fucking peace out because I just don't see any reason to be there.
Right.
I mean, maybe they put her under in the 60s. She might not have even been awake. Um,
Yeah, we got to be fair to Jeff.
yeah, it's always important to make the most charitable read of him. Um, all right, so you can take us out of there, take us to the end.
To play us out.
You want to play us out?
I saw the baby. Oh, it wasn't immediately. Yeah, of course not. Sorry. I saw the baby. Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't immediately. It was more like half an hour later, and the baby, quite honestly to me, she did not look that pretty.
My God,
All
this is so fucked up.
right, let me try that again. And again, people, this is a book. An author crafted it and put it in a particular order for the benefit of readers. Joe McGinnis wanted us to know that this is what Jeffrey MacDonald said.
Yes.
I saw the baby. Oh, it wasn't immediately. It was more like half an hour later. And the baby, quite honestly, to me, she did not look that pretty. Everyone kept saying what a pretty baby Kimmy was. She was cute, but she wasn't, an elegant looking baby. What the fuck do you even say
It's
to that?
so fuck. That's just really it's dark. That's very dark. Especially you can't say it enough times. He's speaking this into a recorder while serving a life sentence for murdering that non-elegant baby. And this is what comes to mind as he's just sort of streaming. I'm just trying to be open and let it all flow as authentically. This is what came out. I wasn't impressed.
It
Honestly,
was not,
wasn't that impressed.
everyone said she was very pretty, but
Yeah, everyone else in the world said that she was, and I was like, she was cute, I guess, but
now I can't help but remember what Blackburn had to say to us
oh my
when we
God.
interviewed him,
Yeah.
and that part of the case he made to the jury was to show them what a
Hmm.
pretty girl
Hmm.
Kimberly was.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I will begin where I left off.
Yep.
She was cute, but she wasn't, an elegant looking baby. Anyway, she was healthy and appeared happy, and Colette was certainly healthy and seemed to do fine. But she was sort of knocked out from the surgery, and she was very wan in the recovery room, but happy that everything came out okay. Mildred had come to help out at the house, and she and I were hitting it off better at this time than ever before or since. We had a good time. We went to dinner together. I showed her around Princeton a little bit. She met our friends. She was staying at the house in one of the bedrooms. Didn't, of course, like the house. Felt it was, not clean enough. Felt that it was not nearly up to the standards that her daughter should be kept in. But I handled myself well, through all of this, and she liked that. I was clearly in charge of the family. And
So he's come full circle. He's now his dad. He's the boss, just like his
yeah,
dad was.
yeah. They bring you up to do like your daddy done.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's beautiful.
I was clearly in charge of the family, and it was working out well for Colette.
Yeah, she's worked out great.
Anyway, he's doing a
He's
lot of,
really he's leaning on it anyway a lot.
yeah. I mean, I'm seeing ahead to the next page.
Yeah, at the last paragraph, he's gonna do it again.
Yeah, he's just been anywaying the shit out of us.
Yeah.
Anyway, Our friends had a nice, joyous reaction. We did the pass out the cigar routine, and all my friends stopped by. Cosmo,
Iacavazzi.
who was the All-American football player, stopped by. He was a good friend at the time. We were in Tiger Inn together.
Yeah. I mean, how could you possibly have repeated yourself? This is like the fifth time he said this, and he really doesn't even, he has no idea that he's already like mentioned this bullshit about the fucking Tiger Inn.
It was
More
it wasn't the best club, but it was
best
definitely top
top
five.
five, and it was the Jock Club.
All right, all right. We were in Tiger Inn together, and his wife, whose name I forget, who was a great cook. She cooked her spaghetti sauce, by the way, with the pork chops and chicken in the sauce. And then okay, Jeff. And then they scooped out the pork chop and chicken and didn't serve that and just used sausage and meatballs left in the sauce for the meat. But the flavoring was with the pork chops and chicken, and it was a great spaghetti sauce. And it would take her a whole day, and she made it once a week. And she wasn't even really Italian. Cosmo Iacavazzi's mother had to teach her how to cook that. She always recalled that as one of her traumatic events of getting married to Cosmo. Anyway, they came over and we had planned this big thing for when Colette came home from the hospital, but she was very worn out. She had lost some blood at surgery and it took a little while to get her back on her feet, so she wanted it a little more quiet. 2 or 3 weeks later, though, we had all our friends over and I cooked spaghetti one night. It was a positive time in our lives, and I remember sort of how proud it was to be, a father.
Amazing ending. It's just like so absolutely dope for him. Sauce, scooping out the pork from the sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just crushing it. He's eating well, and
Tiger in.
Tiger in
In the
Cosmo
Tiger in with
Iacavazzi.
Cosmo.
He was one of the All-American football players, and he was a friend. And then the sort of this continuing, increasingly disturbing propensity to like fill the house of with like non-family all the time. Like as she's coming home, having lost a lot of blood, and there's all these people just jammed into their house, it sounds like.
She was worn out, man.
She was worn out. She was just too feminine and frail. And like I just wanted to be like I wanted everyone just to like think about me and like I'm a father now.
Yeah. I mean, an amazing choice by Joe to have that be a chapter and end it that way with you know, it was
Y-
sort of proud.
Yeah.
What's the
Um,
actual line? Let me look. 105. And how I remember sort of how proud it was to be, a father. Like the sort of, how proud it was.
yeah. I'm just looking back at what the previous chapter and what this is coming on the tails of. And it's coming on the tails of McDonald telling the way he remembered being just like super macho and awesome on the trip with his mom.
Yeah.
Um, and then he didn't cry other than when like the rain hit his face. And
His mom did not remember it that way.
his mom told a completely different version of what happened in the like those 3 days. It was um so this is just like the McDonald dies version of life is gonna be it's pretty easy to spot.
Yeah, there's a pattern
There's
here.
lots of clubs, lots of like big dinners and
Crushing it,
food,
lots of crushing it.
crushing it, like the best food in the world, and Italian, a truly great Italian sauce.
We'll have to put that in the Fatal Vision
Yeah,
podcast cookbook we're working
yeah,
on.
no, that's gonna be part of the one of our first book deals is the cookbook. So I think we've got the Cosmo Iacavazzi pasta,
Fresh
um,
juice, fresh melon.
fresh melon, huevos rancheros, uh, fried potatoes, um, classic California style breakfast. Um, and yeah, in the notes we'll put in what other food he's brought up because I know he's brought up a lot of different. I probably brought up what they ate at their wedding and
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, there was the meal they had at their honeymoon in Provincetown. He talked about that.
Oh, right, right.
So again, then we made the mistake of going back there, and it wasn't the same. Never is.
We could have one of our interns just pour through the text.
Yeah, no, we are. Yeah, that we are looking forward to releasing the Fatal Vision cookbook, Fatal Vision podcast cookbook. Um, 27 or 28 probably. It's gonna be a lot of work. So what do we, we're back. We got through a chapter. It was
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you look at where this is going, so that was a pause for McDonald, and then we're going to be back to next week. It'll be um, a brief interlude with the Kassabs.
Oh, that probably won't be as funny.
No, but then I can tell you that the week after we're going to have a very, very long stint with Jeff talking about Princeton and maybe some other awesome shit he did, maybe medical school. It's just gonna be there's gonna be a lot of really dope stuff coming up for the McDonald monologues. So yeah, how do we
Before we
feel?
go, maybe we want to invite in the McDonald defender for a minute.
Yeah, bring him in. What does he got to say? What is he gonna say?
Oh, just the same bullshit.
That this isn't it's not fair. This shouldn't have ever seen the light of day.
Yeah, yeah. He's just recording an audio tape in the jail cell, and none of this means he killed his family. And it's just Joe character assassinating him.
Selective. He's selectively. He's not presenting the entire on abridged transcript. He's
Yeah, he should have
selectively.
released all the tapes.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I was going to say is the McDonald defender would say is um, when he gets confronted with his own notes about how I think I took escatrol uh, with by Mike Wallace, and he's like, no, I didn't say that. And then he's like, when he finally has to admit it, he's like, Mike, these are notes that I prepared for an attorney who has asked me to bare my soul so he can be prepared for any possibility. So it's like it'll be that kind of like he's Joe McGinn has asked me to bare my soul so that he
I
could
thought
write the
Joe
best
McGinnis
book.
was my best friend. I
He acted
believed
like he was my best friend.
I believed he was my best friend.
Best friend.
That's
Um,
an actual quote from Jeffrey
yeah,
MacDonald.
it was. And there's the three great tragedies of his life were the murders, being convicted of the murders, and the publication of this book.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna add a fourth to it.
Yeah. Yeah, the podcast is going to be might break the glass ceiling there.
What does that metaphor mean in this case?
I was just looking at my phone and I got an email from Glassdoor, so it just came out organically.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but I guess in the wake of the tragedy that we're all living through right now, it's just another reminder
Another reminder of
that
what
just the
happened.
utter futility of caring or thinking about anything outside of your own personal family.
Yep. Yeah, it didn't matter. Nothing didn't matter.
It's
Everything we did.
just a huge waste of time. And it was all over in an hour and a half.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we don't want to have the conversation live on the air like right now. Could
Yeah.
alienate a lot of our listeners,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
might not even be allowed to talk about this um, soon. So we'll remain cryptic. We won't ever say what we're talking about
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think it's important that we publish as much of this as possible
before
before January.
before
Yeah. Yeah.
before it happens,
Yeah.
because then it could all just be go away. So yeah, we're get ready. The deluge is coming. As soon as we stop recording, we're gonna post another episode, and you know our true open dialogue with all of our fans can really commence.
We have an open door policy here at
Yeah.
the Fail to Vision podcast.
Yeah, you can email. As always, you're encouraged to email your thoughts or questions. And please, we couldn't survive without your constant donations and gifts and precious gifts sent through GoFundMe. And actually, no, that's no good for the tax purposes. Just send them directly through us on Venmo. We'll share the information if you send us a private message, and just make sure it's marked as a gift. Thank you. And like, subscribe, of course. You can do that publicly.
Share it on your.
Yeah, on your socials. You can find us on all the socials.
Well, actually, you can't. You can't. But
No, not all of them anymore, but some of them. And follow us on there, and retweet or repost anything you see us say to try to increase exposure for the podcast. Because I'm reading here on that's how you get a word of mouth is crucial. So yeah, we're so happy to be back.
we're still sending out the welcome packet, right? But it's just a Google Doc now that people can log into.
Yeah, it's a Google Doc, but it's view only. You can't edit it unless you have special permission. So that's very important that we don't let people edit it. It's, it's crucial.
Oh, I thought we gave edit access, but there was like an honor system. Did you switch
Ah,
it to view
shit,
only?
you're right. No, it is the honor system.
Yeah.
It just says in red letters, do not edit. Only copy. So futile.
If if any if any of you out there haven't gotten your welcome packet, just shoot us a DM on
Yeah.
our Blue
We'll
Sky
invite we'll
Twitch.
we'll we'll invite you to the Google Doc. Um, yeah, follow us on Discord and dark web, whatever,
Rumble,
whatever. Yeah.
Bumble.
No, yeah, yeah, right, sure. What is the one? Mastodon? Mast Remember
I
that
don't know.
one?
I don't know about
That
that
was
one.
one of the upstarts. Blue Sky. Is Blue Sky taken off?
Blue
What
Sky
happened?
is I saw an update about that on my elevator, like elevator with like the news ticker.
Oh, nice.
It was like Blue Sky gained 20,000 new members overnight.
Oh man. Threads. Remember Threads?
Yeah. Oh
That was
man.
hot. I
Good
had a lot of
times.
fun on Threads.
Good times there,
Um,
man. All right. Well, I want to thank all our listeners. Once again,
Do-
keeping faith with their awakened heart.
yes. Do not play the cynic. Do not let God break the thread as you get up from your meditation here.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks. I'm gonna
Thank
stop the
you. Have a good
recording
night.
now. All right.
All
See you
right. God
next time.
bless. Good
Bye.
night.